you never really know. And that's the tough part with entrepreneurship. You don't know if you have another one. I remember Mark Zuckerberg famously said, why would I sell Facebook? I'm never going to have a better idea than this, right? And so the being an entrepreneur, small business owner is like one of the most bravest things that you can do to continue to put yourself out there.
Hi there, I'm Emily Washkovic, Yelp small business expert. And here at Behind the Review, I sit down with entrepreneurs and industry leaders to get all the tips and tricks you need to grow your small business. Today, you're going to watch a conversation I had with Everette Taylor. He's the CEO of Kickstarter. He did a great job busting myths about crowdfunding and, most importantly, shared how existing businesses can use sites like Kickstarter to grow their business or maybe expand into a new product or service offering. Let's give our conversation a listen. Today, I am so excited to be joined by Everette Taylor, the CEO of Kickstarter. Everette, thank you so much for making time for us today.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. I love Yelp. Emily, I'm already a fan of you and I've only known you for 5 minutes, so this is going to be a great combo.
I'm really looking forward to it. And I feel like you are the perfect guest for this show because you've been an entrepreneur since you were 19. Tell everyone about that original journey into entrepreneurship for you.
Yeah, I mean, I would even say even younger. Like I've always had a very hustler mentality. I'm from Southside Richmond, and it's all about figuring out ways to make money and get by. And I feel like I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit. Like I started off like buying candy at the store and flipping the candy at school. So like I've just kind of always been in my bag when it comes to being an entrepreneur. But my first company I started was at 19 years old. I was actually early in my sophomore year of Virginia Tech, and I had to drop out to go back home, help out family. I was working at Joann Fabrics. I was making minimum wage. I would literally, the gas it took to get to work and just buying lunch, I was like, did I even profit today? Like that. So it was really, really tough. But one of the things that I was really talented at was throwing parties. So I had this idea to start throwing parties in my hometown. And that's when my first company came about, called Easy Events. Now, when I went to school at Virginia Tech, I also went to school for computer science and computer engineering. So me and a couple guys built an event marketing platform to tie with Easy Events. So think Eventbrite. You could buy tickets. You could also get pictures and pay for pictures from the event. And I didn't know anything about SaaS businesses, tech businesses. I was just trying to solve a problem. And so we built that. And a couple of years later, we sold it. And I find out, I want to say maybe 6 to 8 months later, that company sold for way more than what I sold it for. So what did that teach me? One is like, know how to value yourself, know what you're building, understand the market. I was a kid from Southside Richmond. I didn't know anything about Silicon Valley. I didn't know anything about SaaS companies. Always stay curious. I think in that company, I was in a space where we were printing money, things were good, and then things weren't so good. We sell the company, and I wish I would have stayed curious, continue to innovate and things like that. And so that was a really valuable lesson for me as a small business owner, entrepreneur, to understand my value, but also continue to innovate and stay curious.
Well, and that must have motivated you, even though it was like, dang, it was worth more. That also, I'm sure, gave you the fire, like, we can build another thing like this, or I can have another success like this.
Yeah, I mean, you never really know. And that's the tough part with entrepreneurship. You don't know if you have another one. I remember Mark Zuckerberg famously said, why would I sell Facebook? I'm never going to have a better idea than this, right? And so being an entrepreneur, small business owner is like one of the most bravest things that you can do to continue to put yourself out there. And I didn't look at it like that. The way that I looked at it was like, oh, I have a lot to learn. What is Silicon Valley? I need to get out there. When I found out that that company sold for the amount that it sold at, I think I was in California 2 weeks later. I dropped out of college again, and I was like, I have to figure this whole thing out. And it was the best decision I could have ever made.
I love that. And lifelong learning is so important for entrepreneurs too, right? You can't just get in your box and kind of do your own thing. It's so much better to learn and evolve and keep, just adding to your tool belt and skill set. So that's great advice. Let's talk a little bit about this journey that you had. Then you were in marketing for a long time and held a role as CMO multiple times, and then transitioned to CEO, which isn't that common. How has that marketing background really fueled your entire journey?
I mean, it just goes back to what I said. I'm a hustler. I'm someone, I'm going to figure it out by any means necessary. And marketing, I will say this, I think the job of CMO is the second hardest job. I mean, obviously, I'm biased to CEO, right? And in some cases, I think CMO is actually harder depending on who your CEO is and who you're reporting into. Oftentimes, marketers have very unrealistic goals and expectations put on them when it's other parts of the business that need help, whether it's service, whether it's the product, whether it's a lot of different things, mismanagement of funds, all the things like, and then it falls on to the marketer where, hey, you got to make this work. And so I think what marketing taught me was to be super adaptable, be scrappy, figure things out on the fly, always constantly be curious, innovating, thinking of creative ways to do things and grow the company. As you know, as a small business owner or entrepreneur, something that might work, that worked in 2021 is not going to work in this economic climate in 2025, right? And so marketing really taught me to just be quick on my feet, think fast, and that was really incredible for me. But also it showed me that, hey, I don't have as much breadth and influence as I would like to have within an organization. I've been a CEO founder myself, and I see the power of being able to like kind of call the shots in a sense. And so I knew that at Artsy, I knew that I wanted to my next role to be a CEO, even though people looked at me crazy. And I literally looked at my CEO at the time dead in his eyes and I said, hey, I want your job. Not like to take your job, but one day I want to be a CEO. I would love to be CEO of this company. And he really took me under his wings to help mentor me to that point. Now, I wouldn't suggest saying that to your boss ever, unless you're actually delivering and have that type of relationship. But I was very intentional. I knew where I wanted to go. Recruiters would reach out to me about big CMO jobs. I would turn them down because I knew that my path was to be a CEO, and that's what I wanted. And I stayed true to that North Star, and it happened.
And this journey of yours, I feel like, has happened so quickly. So I'm just excited to see all of the other things that you're going to do. And I know there's so much more coming. Let's talk now about Kickstarter. Explain to everyone a little bit about crowdfunding. I feel like some people maybe don't know what it is or
Yeah,
have a misconception.
yeah. It's what the name sounds like. You're basically funding from people, right? You're getting funding from people. Now, there's three. I don't know if this is helpful for the audience, but there's three really core crowdfunding methods. The first one, which a lot of people are probably familiar with, is the donation-based crowdfunding. That's a GoFundMe. They're the biggest, and the donation-based. That means like, hey, you know, my mom is sick, or I need, I'm trying to take this trip, or whatever it is. But you need people just to be like, hey, I just want to support you and donate to you. And oftentimes, unfortunately, a lot of that is bad things happening in the world, unfortunately. Um, the second type of crowdfunding is which may be attractive to some of the people listening to this is, and I've seen small business owners do all three types of crowdfunding, right? I've seen them on GoFundMe. I've seen them do the second type, which is equity-based crowdfunding, right? So these are companies like WeFunder and Republic, where you go out there and you got to put out your financials. You got to have a lot of transparency here, but you're giving shares of your company out for money publicly fundraising for that, right? But you're losing equity at the same time, right? The last type of crowdfunding, which is my favorite, obviously, because it's Kickstarter, is reward-based crowdfunding or creative crowdfunding. And what that is that when you're on a platform like Kickstarter, not only is the breadth of different things you can raise for crazy, like we have people who are doing everything from film and theater to comics to games to fashion to tech products to music, is a large breadth of things, but also you're not giving up any percentage of your company, right? So we have people raising millions of dollars on the platform, but the caveat to this is that you have to give something back. You have to deliver a film, you have to deliver a product, you have to really deliver. So it puts that pressure and that accountability on creators to really deliver. And reward-based crowdfunding is like, hey, like I have an Aura ring on right now. That started on Kickstarter. You
I
have it.
didn't know that.
Yeah, Aura Ring started on Kickstarter, and also a bunch of competitors that have raised millions of dollars on the platform. But when you supported Aura Ring on Kickstarter, guess what you got? You got an Aura Ring. So you're getting something. So the GoFundMe's of the world, you're just doing it out of kindness of your heart. The other one is equity based, but Kickstarter is reward based crowdfunding.
And I think there's something here that business owners should really learn because many of them have a hard time getting access to capital and they don't even think of this as a route. Do you want to just hit on briefly a little bit more about why access to capital is so challenging and how thinking more in the mindset of crowdfunding could help a small business fill that gap?
Yeah, absolutely, Emily. I think, you know, the tough part about access to capital is that there's a lot of parameters and limitations to it. Like if you're going out to get a bank loan, if you don't have established credit or great credit, say something happened when you were younger, you're way better with your credit now, and then the bank is like, nope, 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 I'm not going to give you that money, or they may not give you the amount of money that you actually need to get traction for your business. A lot of bank loans tend to be a lot more limited, and you have to pay that money back. You have to get that money back. Venture capital, you know this all too well. Venture capital really isn't for small business owners. It just isn't. Like people who invest in companies with venture capital, they don't want I think 10, 5, even a $1 to $2 million business that's super profitable is super impressive, right? And you can live an incredible life in that way. But venture capitalists, no, they want that $1 billion exit. They want, if they're going to invest in you, they're going to do that. And when they invest in you, they can take a large chunk of your company. Founders have been kicked out of their own companies. So that's difficult. With Kickstarter, you own 100% of the company. You build your own community on the platform and get access to millions of people that are using the platform. You get to be able to establish product market fit to see if like, hey, is this something that actually makes sense for me, if I can get the support for this. And at the end of the day, this is non-dilutive money, and you can raise an incredible amount of money on the platform that even more than you may have gotten from venture capital.
And something that I think is so interesting is when we don't look at alternative options, especially as entrepreneurs who are focused on just trying to, serve customers, make money, kind of keep the lights on, we close down potential, who even knows the opportunities and expansion that are there. Could you actually give an example of maybe a business that already existed or a local business that used Kickstarter not to just get started, but to grow into a new area?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you a few examples. One is, it was actually one of the first that I ever backed. It was it was called Purple Window Gallery. It's in Chicago. It's an artist-led, community-supported project space in Chicago. And you may not know a lot about art, but like one of the most expensive things is just getting a physical permanent home. And so you have a lot of these galleries like Purple Window and others that had to be nomadic, right? Finding different spaces and like wanting to find a true home to open up the gallery and things like that. I'm very passionate about art, as you can see. And so that was really beautiful to say, hey, we need to establish ourselves. We need to find a home. We need a place where like, if you're nomadic, people don't even know where you are half the time, right? And so to really establish themselves in the community, I thought that was beautiful. There was this restaurant that wanted to build a restaurant, like expand and build a bigger restaurant and a music venue, Soul Mama in London. I think they raised over 250,000 pounds for their space. And like, it was like, hey, we want to be bigger than what we are right now, right? We want to also have a music venue. We want to do these things. We want to expand. But they didn't have the money to do that. And so Kickstarter allowed that. And one of my favorite spots is one that I just visited when I was in Richmond. It's called Ruby Scoops. Ruby Scoops is a like Black owned, queer owned space in Richmond where, they were already making ice cream and they needed a permanent space, a big space to, bring in more people in a nicer space. And so I love seeing it. I love entrepreneurs who are already moving in the space and small business owners that are moving in the space be able to expand and make things bigger for themselves.
Those are awesome examples. I feel like we should bring it back to marketing. I'm sure a question you get a ton is, how do I market my Kickstarter? How do I make sure this is successful and people find me? What would
Yeah.
be your best tips there?
I mean, well, this is one, a quick shout out is that we built a new business line called Kickstarter Performance, where we actually have an in-house performance marketing team. So if you got product market fit, if you have budget, we can do a lot of that performance marketing for you in-house here at Kickstarter. Now, obviously that's not for everybody, right? So for everybody that's listening to this that don't have the money to do like performance marketing, the biggest thing that I can say is like Kickstarter is a business. Like at the end of the day, no matter if you're a creative, what your background is, you have to have a true go-to-market strategy, meaning that you need to genuinely, like, it's not like, hey, I think a lot of people make the mistake of like, oh, Kickstarter has millions of people, on the platform. If I just launch it, this thing is going to get funded. No, you have to have a true marketing strategy. You can't be overly reliant on social media, especially with the changes in the algorithm and things like that. And so having a strong go-to-market plan is really important. And the last thing I will say is, from a marketing perspective, is understanding what resonates with people, right? Truly understanding what resonates with people and understanding what your target audience is before you even start to raise money. Where do they live? Are they in Reddit threads? Are they on Twitter? Are they on, in this at these physical event spaces? Like figuring out where your audience lives is also extremely important as well.
And that's great advice for any business owner. Think about that customer. Who's the ideal consumer? And then where are they? And that's where you have to market. So I love that. That's relatable even beyond a Kickstarter campaign. Let's talk a little bit more, though, about those new features that you have launched at Kickstarter to help these brands, because I do think it really is like motivation to do a Kickstarter for sure, but also a good reminder that it doesn't just stop when you have this idea that you start to talk about. It's very much an ongoing process and an evolution. So can you hit on some of the tools and how they help with that post-launch process?
Yeah. So, coming to Kickstarter, I call it like Kickstarter 1.0 was like, we built the biggest creative crowdfunding platform in the world by a long shot, right? You know, billions and billions and billions of dollars have been raised on the platform. So that success, right? Kickstarter 2.0 was like building the all-in-one platform, because before it was like, hey, you raise your money and it was like, all right, good luck, go out into the world, hope you're successful. With these post-campaign tools, and we built everything from pre-launch tools through more tools like pledge over time, which allows people to pay in installments and things like that. We've allowed people to be able to be successful throughout their entire journey. The post-campaign side is really, really interesting. Late pledges was one of the first things that we released. And before, if you were, fundraising for Box Water and you raised $100,000 and that friend was like, oh man, sorry, I missed it. I definitely would have, supported. And now you can say, actually, Julian, you can still support because we have late pledges. And so it gives people more e-commerce functionality and be able to raise a lot more even after their campaign is over. Sometimes people even double their raise, or raise 20, 30, 40% more after the campaign is over due to products like an add-on. So yes, it helps. These post-campaign features helps you with all the unsexy stuff like that and shipping and taxes and all that stuff that no one wants to really deal with. But it also helps elevate your business in terms of being able to raise more money and be able to maintain kind of this customer relationship with the people that support you.
I was going to say that's what I like the most about the add-on is it does kind of open up that relationship with the consumer, show them more of what you have and really get their feedback, not only based on what they maybe go after or buy, but I feel like you guys also allow that relationship where they can listen to what different funders might think about their campaign, or they can even like formally get feedback. Is that right?
100%. We see that for a lot of creators, especially our bigger, more established creators, or some of the bigger companies that use us, like right now, Anchor, which is a multi-billion-dollar company in China, one of their divisions, Eufy Make, just launched a 3D printer, which I think at this point may have done 33, 34 million in sales and raised on Kickstarter, right? And so what they're getting is like the first users before they go like to the broader market, get feedback, et cetera, et cetera. So whether you're a big creator or a small creator, that feedback loop is extremely important, especially for the smaller creators, because you're building in real time and you could do something that prevents your business from tanking as a small business owner or entrepreneur. And so I think those feedback loops and having that support is really, really incredible. And if you can deliver, those are going to be your biggest supporters. I tell people all the time, I don't care if you have 1 million followers on Instagram, those 5,000 people on Kickstarter that support you, those are your true supporters.
Well, and they have something in the game, right? They're invested in some way in your business's success, which really does kind of make it more worthwhile for business owners and creators to listen to them, I think, in my opinion. The main topic that we always talk about on Behind the Review is feedback, reviews, and just kind of that dialogue. But I feel like for small business owners, sometimes it's a little personal. And so I'm just curious for you in general, how do you deal with feedback? If it's about you, about the company you're working for, products, like what's your approach to handling feedback and maybe maximizing it?
Oh man, you see this? This skin is made of steel. You have to have tough skin. If listen, entrepreneurship is a choice. Leadership is a choice. There's things that come with these decisions that we make in life, and you have to be okay with that. And you have to understand that you're not perfect. I always understand that about myself. I'm not perfect. I'm always going to make mistakes, but I'm going to always learn from them. And B, hey, this is the path that you chose. So you need to embrace all of the good and the bad that comes with that path. And so for me, I love feedback because I'm constantly trying to be a better person every day. Emily, if you see me a week from now, I'm like that much better of a person, right? That much better of a leader, that much better of an entrepreneur, that much better of a CEO. And so for me, I'm constantly in a space of like wanting to elevate who I am as a person. So I love feedback. I think makes you a better person. It makes you a better leader. But what I will say is, this is the caveat. One thing I don't stand for, at least for most people, is be kind. Like if you're gonna give feedback, make sure that it's constructive, it's kind, it's intentional feedback. And so for the people that are not like that, what I will say to anybody watching this, forget them. Like, don't let that bother you. But also, sometimes in that really bad feedback, sometimes there's some golden nuggets in there as well. So if you can like push through the disrespect and the negativity and look at it, like if someone's on Yelp saying like, oh, and they're saying a lot of stuff that is just like opinion. But if they say, oh, like my food came out cold, then it's like, oh, well, that's something that we really need to figure out, you know? And so to me, I think feedback is a gift. It's healthy. I think people should hold people accountable, but at the same time, do it in a kind way.
And that's great advice for our consumer listeners as well. I always say, like, think about how you're being helpful if you're providing critical feedback. And for business owners too, wonderful advice that you gave, because you can't make changes based on every little thing that someone says, but there is truth in a lot of things that you're reading, and especially if you see something more than once. Like,
Oh,
that certainly means something. I have to ask you, because I feel like you're so like laid back.
yeah.
Have you ever had a hard time with feedback you've gotten? And what did you do? Did you take 24 hours to process? Like, any advice of a business owner is really, they read it and they're really upset.
Actually, I got something recently that did upset me in a sense of the one of the things that I think bothers me sometimes when feedback isn't fair, right? When someone has an opinion of something that's off because maybe they read something wrong or they did something wrong on their part. Now, here's the thing: it's about who the feedback comes from, and this particular person is someone where to me, their feedback matters, right? And so, for me, it's like, take some time, digest. I tell people all the time, like, if you need to take a day. It's okay. But then use that as fuel and use that as motivation. So the first thing I did was make sure that that person had clarity on why they had the wrong perception, which they admitted that they were wrong. And then the second thing, it was like, now I'm even more motivated, right? And so those are the things, is like, yes, there's going to be tough feedback at times. There's going to be things that hurt. Like, we're human. We're, all the things, like, you know, it happens. But at the end of the day, I use that as a tool of motivation. I don't use it as a tool to bring me down. No one person can bring me down, but also it's important for your own mental and emotional health to sometimes take some time, eat some ice cream in bed, watch Netflix, do whatever you got to do, become a human burrito and your covers, like whatever you need to do to kind of get over it. Is I think is essential.
That was great advice, and even a takeaway in there, I think, for business owners in giving feedback. If they have a team or employees, sometimes you avoid confrontation, but I don't even remember who always says this, but clear is kind. Like, providing information or feedback, if you have it, is so important. Okay, we did it, Everett. You were fabulous. We're at the rapid fire. So now I just need two quick answers, and you did it. We're done.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, so first, piece of advice for your younger self.
Okay. Piece of advice for my younger self. Honestly, I probably wouldn't tell them anything. I think they needed to go through every single feeling, emotion, heartbreak, disappointment, failure for me to be right here with Emily on this podcast right now. So, but if I had to say anything, it would be just like, make sure to spend more time with the people that you love. Like, I think being an entrepreneur and small business owner, there's some of this grind culture and some unhealthy habits that we tend to pick up. And like, you cannot get the time back with the people that you love. So that would probably be the advice that I would give.
That was wonderful advice. And I even like what you said about advice to your younger self, because no matter how old you are, if you're listening or watching this, you still have time to do more stuff. So I thought that was great. Maybe what you're doing right now is learning for the future. All right. Last thing, what's something you wish more people understood about crowdfunding?
This is particularly for our type of crowdfunding. I can't speak for anybody else's, but this is not begging for money. I think the humility that's needed for people to do crowdfunding is high, but at the same time, I think some people think that they're like, oh man, I can't, I feel like I'm just asking people for money. And it's like, no, you're delivering value into the world. You're bringing something new, something of value to people that people want to support or have for themselves. And so, like, just getting over that mental hurdle of like, I'm asking for money. No, you're building a business, you're doing a film production, you're making a movie, you're making an album, and these are the people that are going to support that to bring that to life. And so, like, I wish people can sometimes get over that mental hurdle a little bit more.
Well, I feel like we gave a lot of context so people can get over that. So where should they go if a business who's listening has an idea and wants to get something started on Kickstarter? Where should we send them?
Yeah, I mean, just go to Kickstarter.com. We have updates.kickstarter.com with a ton of updates. We have our own blog. We also recently, with Launch Boom, released a whole course, free course on Kickstarter with multiple videos and things like that teach you how to run a successful Kickstarter campaign. So there's a lot of resources out there on Kickstarter to help you be successful on the platform.
Thank you so much for your time, Everett. You delivered value the whole interview, so we really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for tuning in. If you want to learn more about Kickstarter, head to Kickstarter.com. And don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel so you get an alert every time we drop a new episode. And make sure to comment below if you have questions or reach me directly. You can email podcasts@yelp.com. We'd love to hear from you. See you next time.